at a certain point, you got to say, hey, do you want to go to the lake away from here or right next to where they put this giant sign in the corn? His house is surrounded by cornfields. I mean, there's like 30 feet of property and then a wall of corn.
It's hella corn. It's something that this podcast can get behind because we are all about that cracking corn, corn dogs, and popcorn.
It's a corn cast. There can be no doubt about that.
It's a corn castle.
They clearly like this corn. We need to get away from the corn. Why are we still next to the corn?
If you say corn one more time, I'm going to snap.
That's a lot of corn.
What's poppin', Colonels? We're back. Just play it. Another episode. And something is in the air. It's spooky season.
It remains spooky season, James.
We are in October. Let's go. One of my favorite holidays in the world for no reason. I don't know why I love Halloween so much, but we are just watching 4 scary, spooky, horror, thriller, bloodthirsty movies in a row. It kicks off officially with this movie this week. We had a soft opening last week with The Burbs.
I was going to ask, wasn't The Burbs the kickoff? Or
it was when a restaurant or cafe comes to town, they say soft opening. That's what The Burbs was. This is official. This is the hard opening. This is the grand spanking opening spooky season.
This is what we get hard for.
We get hard for October. It means baseball playoffs and scary movies. Trick or treat, baby. I am Jimmy Crack Corn. I am your host. Across the board, across the country from me is the main corn dog himself, Nicholas DeGicklis Justice.
It's the full name, legally.
A man who needs no introduction is my best friend. We are watching the movie Signs from 2002.
Yeah, this is an M. Night Shyamalan joint.
Shyamalama Ding Dong. This is his 5th movie that he directed. And he started out with a movie called Praying with Anger. Never saw it. Another movie called Wide Awake. Never saw it. The 3rd movie on his IMDb directorial credit is The Sixth Sense, which is probably his most famous and most revered movie.
It's definitely the best.
Followed by Unbreakable, followed by Signs.
Unbreakable's great as well.
I was going to say, I think The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Signs era of M. Night Shyamalan was definitely his strongest. The next one was actually The Village, followed by Lady in the Water, followed by The Happening. And I feel like it was really at The Village he started to, the movie review started to teeter off.
He almost became a meme.
They were growing tired of the M. Night Shyamalan formula. And I agree. I think he was kind of becoming meme-worthy.
It's the twist, right? Everybody was. It's not good when you go to a movie and everyone's watching it and they're about an hour in and they're just going, where's the twist? Come on. I'm waiting for it. Let's go.
Precisely. So I think his highest rated movies are his first couple. And I don't know if it's that bias from the public or if it's just true, but his recent movies and ever since The Village, it's just kind of been a little middle of the road quality, at least for the reviews.
He tried to make, maybe he didn't try to make, maybe they tried to push that his most recent movie, Old, right? There's The Beach That Makes You Old. I remember them trying to make that like, M. Night Shyamalan's back with a new something, and I was like, I don't know. I'm just
his latest one is actually Knock at the Cabin. That's the one with Rupert Grint and Dave Bautista,
right?
Yeah. So I think
I didn't know that was him.
That was him. Yeah, and I did hear that Old was kind of whatever.
What do you mean, James? It's A Beach That Makes You Old.
We're in twist territory with M. Night Shyamalan. This movie stars Mel Gibson. This is our first movie we're reviewing that stars Mel Gibson where he is not named Max and he is not mad. Although he could be a little mad in this movie, but
he's got a lot of emotions in this film.
And this also stars Joaquin Phoenix before he kind of blew up in the Oscar realm, walked the line, went on to be the Joker. He's kind of a weird cat, I think, in real life.
From what I know, what I've heard of him, he is extremely, what am I trying to say? He's very much a method actor. It's like people who are on set with him, like he is into it. Like the Joker set, people were like, yeah, we knew he was going to win an Oscar because this guy was so focused and he was the Joker. Like he's just very method. Very method. It gets into his characters very, very much.
Well, I'll tell you this. Emily actually saw him. We had just saw Joker in theaters down in LA. Saw him at the North Hollywood Ralph's buying lemons and kale. And he looked a little skinny, pale, and sickly, almost kind of like he was in Joker. And Emily was like,
probably, yeah.
I don't know if I should run or ask for an autograph.
Any of those actors who are willing to, you know, like put their body through hell to play a role, like you have to be pretty damn committed to the bit, right? Because he was like deathly skinny in Joker. I mean, I think he's an amazing actor. Personally, I'm always a fan of his.
Oh,
work.
I'm a
I think
huge
he does
Joaquin
a really good job.
Phoenix fan.
Joining Mel and Joaquin is Rory Culkin, and you're correct. That is the brother of Macaulay Culkin.
There's a lot of Culkin siblings.
There's like 5, yeah.
I thought this was what's his face, Kieran, at first. The guy from what's that show that I don't watch?
There's a lot of those, I'm assuming.
Succession. Because when I was a kid, disclaimer, I've seen this movie before in my early youth as a 13-year-old. My sister was obsessed with it, and we watched it quite a bit, actually. And I never really kept up with names, and God forbid I was reading credits in the beginning. On a rewatch as an adult, I saw Rory Culkin, and I thought, oh, that's obviously this is a brother of Macaulay, and it's probably that guy from Succession. But I was like, no, there's a couple, and they're all actors.
Yeah, there's a handful of them. Dead on looks of Macaulay Culkin. Maybe a little fuller face, but I mean, you see it.
He's got a Culky face. Speaking of sibling actors, we got Abigail Breslin, sister to Spencer Breslin. That's a pair of siblings that has appeared in many movies in our childhood as well. I saw in the credits, the producer was Kathleen Kennedy, and she is very well known for her producing credits on Star Wars. And it's more so the later stuff of Star Wars, like Rogue One, A Solo Story, The Mandalorian, the sequel trilogy.
So the good stuff.
Hold on, don't speak
not the
too
sequel
soon
trilogy.
now.
Yikes!
All the recent kind of Disney Plus shows, she's very heavily involved in Star Wars. So I thought that was pretty cool that she also worked on this movie.
Good for Kathleen.
This movie had an estimated budget of $72 million, which is a little bit high. Yeah, no,
that's really high.
Because I recall Big Fat Liar, which came out a year prior. No, it came out the same year. That had a budget of $15 million, and I thought that was small time. So I guess this seems a little bit more in line.
I mean, man,
kind of high for the amount of sets and locations they go to and the amount of actors in it, right?
I'm going to make a note right now in front of me to say, let's circle back to that at the end after we talk about the plot and what we can talk about the CGI and everything. And we'll circle back to that budget. Because when I was looking this up and I wrote it down, I was like, that does seem like a pretty big budget for this film. But studios didn't care because the worldwide box office on this one, $408 million.
Oh, hell yeah, dog.
Yeah, they made it back then some. So
that's over 500% the return.
Yeah. I think this movie, for me, has a lot of stuff I want to talk about after the... So what do you say we get into the plot real quick? I'll read the log line. We'll get into the plot. We'll run through the plot. Because this movie has a lot of layers into it that I think the back half of this pod is where we're going to start really getting into some heavy stuff. What do you say?
I agree. Let's rip through it. And before we do that, I just have a question. Have you seen this movie before this official watch?
From front to back? No. Never sat down and watched the entirety of the film.
And okay, this is one of those rare occurrences where I've seen this a lot. It's been a minute since I've seen it before this week, and you have pretty much never seen it. So I'm interested to see your thoughts and everything that unfolds in this movie and stuff that follows.
Let's do it. Well, I'll hit us with the log line, and then we dive right into plot talk.
Hit me, dog.
A widowed former reverend living with his children and brother on a Pennsylvania farm finds mysterious crop circles in their fields, which suggests something more frightening to come.
For spooky plot talk! Plot talk. Okay, so we open up on a farmhouse. We are introduced to the character of Graham Hess. This is Mel Gibson. And I believe they establish that they're in a town 45 miles removed from Philadelphia. So we know this is Pennsylvania, maybe a little Amishy town.
Rural.
Vibes,
Very rural.
hella rural. Probably like rural. Cruel and rural.
Roger.
So there's probably like 500 people in this town. And I'll say, I think they do a good job of the world building because they have a sheriff or a deputy character that knows Mel Gibson's character of Graham personally. Their introductory conversation is just, oh, old Mrs. What's-Her-Nuts went into the store and started spitting on skateboards. I tell you what. So it's real small time. It's probably a town where everybody knows each other. They do a good job of just setting up the small town aspect. We can see that Graham is a father and he has 2 kids. There is a outline, like a shadow dust outline of a cross on the wall. We take note of that. And we do learn that he is a former reverend who no longer identifies as a reverend, doesn't want to have any part of the church. Something went south and seems like he quit. What happens in the beginning? He gets like woken up.
Yeah, he gets startled. He runs outside and immediately starts shouting for his children because he can't see them. His house is surrounded by cornfields. I mean, there's like 30 feet of property and then a wall of corn. So he immediately starts running through the corn, shouting his kid's name. So his son is Morgan and his daughter is Bo. And this is Rory Culkin and Abigail Breslin, very young Abigail Breslin. And he's running with his brother Merrill. This is Joaquin Phoenix's character. And so off the bat, we can tell he is very protective of his kids. We learn a little bit later on that his wife passed. That's the event that turned him away from the church and stopped him from being a reverend. So he's very protective of his kids. So he's sprinting through the corn, shouting his kid's name. He eventually gets up to them and they're just standing there staring at this opening in the corn. And it's a massive crop circle.
I had a question. I thought, what the hell is up with crop circles? Where did they come from? So in Australia, in the mid to late 1960s, there was occasional reports of circles in crops, and they were often described as, or ascribed as UFO landing sites. The urban myth, the rural myth, if you will, of crop circles. And then so basically these two blokes from England took that and just decided to make it a practical joke. There's a guy named Doug Bauer and his pal, Dave Chorley. They basically this is from Smithsonian Magazine, by the way, this report. Over a drink one evening in 1976, Doug Bauer looked at his pal Dave Chorley and said, "Hey, let's go over there and make it look like a flying saucer landed." And then in a different article, there's an instance where in 1991, Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley of Southampton, England, confessed to have made more than 200 crop circles since the late 1970s, with nothing more complex than ropes and boards. They initially been inspired by the 60s account of UFO sightings near Queensland, Australia. So Doug Bauer and his friend admitted to this reporter that they basically did this as a practical joke, a hoax.
200 crop circles, dude, that is commitment to the bit.
So it does say that at the time in the 70s, they were 76 and 62. So I'm thinking this is retirement age. And basically this is you and me saying, hey, we should just start fucking with people.
I hope I'm that metal.
I hope I'm that committed to a bit when I'm at that age.
One or two funny. 5,
200?
10, the second you hit triple digits, you know that this is your life now.
Yeah, one
figured them out. They were out there destroying cornfields 200 times and never got caught. That's so sick.
That's pretty badass. They're basically the birds aren't real guys, but from the 70s.
Wow.
So I was like, what is the deal with crop circles? What's the origin story? Why is it associated with aliens? That's the reason.
These crop circles aren't just circles. They're like these symbols.
Yeah, they do a little bit. There's still some real life, quote unquote, crop circles that used intricate designs as well. But they do actually kind of make a hint to this report because the sheriff lady, who we haven't met yet, she does mention that it could have been done. They use the line. They say, some have reported that they can easily do it with some rope and some wood boards. So they definitely were making a reference to this real life phenomenon, practical joke hoax.
Which I appreciate.
Yeah, that was hilarious. Way to go.
We end up learning Graham's younger brother, Merrill. So Joaquin Phoenix's character, he's been helping the family, staying with them since Graham's wife, Colleen, had died in a car accident or a traffic accident 6 months earlier. This is when Graham, again, left the church because he was like,
shook.
There's no God.
Hella shook. Yeah, he turned his back on that real quick.
Yeah, there's a whole like subplot of like losing faith and whatnot.
Abigail Breslin, Bo, the kids have to be creepy. They always make creepy one-liners, and Bo especially. Bo has a thing with water. Like it seems like she can, like, whatever, something's always wrong with her water cups. So she's always like asking for water. Graham is sleeping in bed and his eyes shoot open, and it's his daughter Bo standing in front of him. And she says,
"There's a monster outside my room. Can I have a glass of water?"
"What's wrong with the water next to your bed?"
"Tastes old."
I think this is one of those trailer moments in mind from M. Night Shyamalan.
Big time.
He's like, this is going to be in the trailer, and I need this little creepy girl to say this creepy ass line. And he doesn't question the monster part. He's just like, yeah, whatever. I'll just get you a glass of water because I know you constantly need new glasses of water. So she says that. So it's like, does she see something outside? Because he doesn't follow up on that. And that's where later in that scene, we get our first jump scare, and there's some dark, shadowy humanoid figure on top of the neighboring house structure, on top of the barn.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, there's your monster. Are you going to follow up with Bo about that now? Or ignore it?
Ignore it. He ignores everything. Most people in this do.
It kind of seems like she just says stuff that, you're the youngest kid. I'm just going to disregard it, not listen to you, not take it too seriously. But you should take it seriously after that.
I feel like most kids, yeah, like at first you don't take it seriously because if a kid wakes you up in the middle of the night, says there's a monster, you're like, there's no monsters. Let's get you some water, put you back to bed.
So Graham sees this, and then he goes to wake up Merrill, and he says it's Lionel and the Wolfington brothers.
Messing with our corn.
Yeah, messing with my cow. There is quite a bit of humorous scenes in this movie, which I think is a good contributor to a horror movie. I think it shouldn't be all like, I'm stressed out the whole time. I think you need those little comedic breaks. So there is quite a bit of humorous scenes, and one of the first humorous scene, it's Merrill and Graham trying. Merrill is like kind of like the jockey, kind of little brother, athletic. I won't say dumb and slow, but just a little bit more simple-minded, I think is safe to say.
Very safe.
And he says, yeah, we'll just run out there. We'll just start yelling, start cussing, and we'll scare these little bitches off. And Graham, being a former reference, like, I can't cuss. I'm not good. I don't know how to cuss. I'm not good at it. He says, well, just start screaming.
And they bust out the front door. Merrill goes right. Graham goes left. Merrill's screaming, "I'm gonna beat your ass, bitch!" And Graham's just yelling like, "I'm losing my mind!"
Loud noises.
Pretty much, yeah, more or less. But whatever creature's out there is fast. It's outrunning them. It's it ends up on the roof of the house and then sprints back out into the corn.
They're not seeing things because there is evidence that something's out there. One, there was the figure on top of the roof. Two, they both, I think Merrill sees trash cans spilling over, and then Graham sees a shadow up ahead. So there's evidence that something's there.
They hear the something running on the roof.
How did he get off?
And then something enters into the corn.
I noticed there was a lot of almost breaking the fourth wall shots. There's a lot of kind of POV with actors either looking at the camera or looking right over the camera. And I just want to know, did you notice that at all? Did you think of that?
Yeah, I did.
I kind of have a thought about that.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring it up in a scene coming up.
Okay, I'll bring it up now because this is where it was very prominent to me. So there's a shot from the roof point of view, and he's looking up at the roof. Merrill takes 10 steps backwards and to his left, and the camera is tracking him, and then he steps back into his original position and the camera's still tracking him. So I took this as the alien, or sorry, whatever this is watching him. And Meryl cannot see him, but he thinks something's there. So I'll just leave that there. And then after this, the swing on the swing set playground, or not playground, but they have a swing set for kids behind them about 50 feet. And they hear it jostle and it moves quickly. And then they see the corn stalks move as if something's running through them. So at this moment, watching it this week, I'm thinking, hell yeah, this is why I was obsessed with this movie as a kid. I love the shit, dude. The suspense and just the buildup. I think that's what the whole appeal of horror movies are. So I was in it at this point. I was in it.
Yeah.
So they call the cops. They say, hey, so this is where we meet the sheriff lady. She initially comes out. This is Cherry Jones, plays Officer Paskey. She initially comes out after the first incident of Graham reporting that his crops have been vandalized. And she comes out and they investigate, like, what kind of machine can do this. They're like, there's no machine that can do this. And they say, you can't do this by hand. It's too perfect. And so she does come out as a courtesy call to investigate the crop circles. During this scene, when she initially comes out, there are dogs. So there's creepy kids and there's dogs that can sense things that are wrong. The dog is acting strange and actually snaps when Bo pushes some water towards the dog. And this is after she says it tastes funny. So you're thinking, like, what's up with the water? Is there something in the water? Are the aliens messing with the water? What's going on?
Something with the water.
Sorry, not the aliens. Whatever mystery is out there, we don't know is aliens.
I think everyone knows at this point with signs and crop circles.
The whole appeal was the crop circles for the movie promotion and the posters.
We got aliens.
So the dog snaps and Morgan has to actually kill the dog. So this is a sad movie trope where you got to kill the dog because it went psycho. It went rabid. So we think.
And the kids aren't like reacting really. Again, creepy kids.
Creepy kids, man. It's a trope in horror movies. Officer Paskey comes out for that. And then she comes out a second time because Graham reports that these kids are back and you need to arrest them because they're messing with my crops and vandalizing. She's asking for a description of the suspect.
And this is more comedy that you're talking about. They're trying to describe the suspect, but they can't because they never saw it.
Super convinced that they knew what they saw, but when they think about it, literally saw nothing.
Okay, so far it was very dark. You can't describe him at all. I don't know whether to look for a giant or a midget.
No, he definitely wasn't a midget.
So he was tall.
I would say so, yes.
Probably.
How certain are you that this was a male?
Oh, I don't know any girls who could run like that.
I don't know, Meryl. I've seen some of those women on the Olympics. They can run like the wind.
This guy got on our roof in like a second. Our roof is 10 feet high.
They have women's high jumping in the Olympics. They got these Scandinavian women who can jump clean over me.
And then he makes the comment later. He's like, so what other theories do you have outside of Scandinavian Olympians? And she's like, I don't appreciate that tone. It's like, you were bringing up Scandinavian Olympians. What are you mad at him for?
It's a small town, so there's probably not a lot of cops, sheriffs. So they're probably not going to respond to every single suspicious incident in this small town, especially when you're like hella far out in them cornfields. You know what I'm saying?
But you could tell the sheriff definitely feels for Graham, having lost his wife and everything. So she's very sympathetic to that.
Well, speaking of a small town, they go into the small town to go get a pizza.
They do. Graham ends up going into a pharmacy to get medicine for his son. His son has severe asthma. And so he goes into this pharmacy and he's talking to the gal behind the counter. They're having this back and forth of, she's like, I need to get stuff off my chest. I need to confess. There's so much weird stuff going on in the world. There's stuff going on around the world. There's crop circles all around the world. Everybody, there's people, the world's going to end. No, it's not. This is a hoax. And he's talking to this lady behind the counter, and each shot is just from each actor's POV as they're having this conversation.
Yeah.
And so they're staring right at the camera into each other each time. And I definitely did notice that.
That happens here. They all kind of split up. The kids go. I think Bo is with Morgan. I don't know actually, but
Yes.
Graham goes to the pharmacy. Bo and Morgan go to a bookstore, and the store owners are watching the crop circle news. Morgan asks if they have any alien books, and this lady is like, yeah, there's one alien book like over on the third shelf in the back left corner. Go get it.
Second from the right or something. You're like, that's specific.
Yeah, I was like, I'm watching you, lady. That was hella suspicious. So Morgan goes and gets a book on aliens, which is from just some guy and his theories. Meanwhile, Meryl is in a military recruitment office.
The Army Recruiting Center.
We kind of both have some highlighted stuff here.
Yes.
Why don't you go ahead and tell me what happens in the scene and what your highlighted notes are?
Yeah, so he goes in. You can tell he's looking for a direction in life. So he's thinking about maybe the Army.
Meryl's looking for a sign.
I know his ranking. Everyone's looking for a sign. And eventually the general says something about the crop circles, and the general clearly, again, I call him a general. I don't know his rank. He's convinced it's aliens.
No. I don't think he says aliens. I think he says there's a lot of out-of-towners coming around these parts, and he describes the military war strategy of probing. And then it's like, okay, little reference to aliens because aliens probe buttholes, as we all know. And basically, he's just describing as a reconnaissance plan. They send a couple people in to see if scope it out, see if it's safe to rob or pillage or harm. And Meryl's like, what are they scouting for? And this military guy is like, the rest of them. So it's very vague. The audience is obviously thinking aliens, but this military guy doesn't outright say aliens. By the way, this Army recruiter who is played by Ted Sutton.
Mm-hmm.
So Sergeant Cunningham is Sergeant Creepy Son of a Bitch. Did you notice that this guy did not blink throughout the entire...
Did you see his jaw move?
Something is weird with this guy. Is he an alien? Because he is acting hella suspicious. Every time he spoke, he would be like...
It's called probing. It's a military procedure. You send out a reconnaissance group, very small, check things out. Not to engage, but to evaluate the situation, evaluate the level of danger, make sure things are all clear.
Clear for what?
For the rest of them.
And he would like reset his mouth to like a underbite.
Mm-hmm.
I rewound it 3 times. And I was watching this fool's eyes. He does not blink. The only time he blinks is when Meryl says, okay, you got like a pamphlet or something for me. And then he kind of breaks out of it and blinks like 2 or 3 times. The entire scene, he does not blink. And it was unsettling.
It's just very intense. The speaking's intense. The staring's intense. But he ends up recognizing Meryl. And he goes, you're Meryl Hess.
With those creepy, not blinking eyes.
I'm like, I'm sitting there. I'm like, how do you know this guy? Like, what's happening now?
Small town.
And we find out that Merrill Hess, he knows him because he set the record for the longest home run in minor league baseball history.
507 feet. Now, is that possible? Is that impressive? You're a baseball guy.
Extremely impressive.
How about for like a teenager?
Maybe a juiced up Barry Bonds at Coors Field in Colorado.
Oh, so Merrill was juicing in Corntown, Pennsylvania, is what you're saying.
I mean, yeah, we're talking 507 that's
impressive.
Yeah.
The sergeant first class, he makes a really creepy comment and says,
why aren't you in the pros making stacks of cash and getting your toes licked by beautiful women?
Who the hell says that to a complete stranger? Excuse me, boundaries, dude. I would not enlist in this guy. I would be like, am I working with you directly? Because that's a no-go.
But then we meet this random ass explaining character.
Not a random ass. This is the guy that they think is messing with their crops. This is Lionel.
Okay, hear me out. I don't know why he's in there, and I don't know what he's
enlisting in Sergeant Toesucker's army. Because he's a creep. Did you see Lionel? He was hella skeevy. You kidding me?
Well, that's my thing. He's in there with like a leather jacket and long hair.
He looks like a 37-year-old like school bully.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, who is this? And he just happens to be signing up for the army right now. It was just very, I get it. It's convenient. It's a movie, but I was like, this is super random.
By the way, this is also Michael Showalter of Wet Hot American Summer fame. Very funny guy.
I didn't know that was Michael Showalter. That's awesome.
He has the minor league strikeout record.
Hello, Lionel.
Merrill's a Class A screw-up.
He's a screw-up? What are you talking about, Lionel?
You're a 37-year-old 10th grader enlisting in the Army because your life is going nowhere, Lionel.
He would just swing that bat as hard as he could every time. Didn't matter what the coaches said. Didn't matter who was on base. He would just whip that bat through the air as hard as he could.
Basically, he's Michael Jordan in Space Jam or Pablo Sandoval. He just can't stop swinging. He caps it off with,
Felt wrong not to swing.
so that's the line we end on in that scene.
Yeah, you're like, okay, that's interesting. Wrap up the town experience.
They all regroup at the pizza parlor and they see this guy. This is actually M. Night Shyamalan playing a character. Nick, how do you feel about when directors insert themselves into their own movies as actors?
I'm okay with the cameo.
Okay.
Because who else? Who's a big Tarantino?
Tarantino does that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, Sean Levy did it in Big Fat Liar, but he was basically playing a director in like a 3-second cut, not like a featured character like this.
Yeah, I'm okay with the cameo, but once you become an important character, I don't know. Because it always feels out of place. Like
it's a little bit too winky at the audience.
Well, it's a very small white town, and then there's an Indian guy.
Hey, no, that's how America is, In those small towns,
Yeah.
it's pretty much 98% white, and then there's like the one guy, especially in rural Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and as we'll find out, his character's not a great person. So it's like, oh, he's the one bad guy. The Indian guy is just the bad guy.
No, I disagree. It's not that he's not a great person, but he does make a fatal mistake in Graham's life.
I'll disagree. We're getting there. We're getting very close to that.
All right, you can enlighten me. So the family sees this guy, and Morgan says, "Is that him?" And they all just kind of stare at this guy, and I'm like, "Are the Hesses racist?" Because they're staring down this one Indian guy in town.
So I'm saying, when you insert yourself as a character that probably...
I don't know if I'm comfortable about this.
When this character should have just been another townsfolk, and you're like, I'm going to make it myself, the Indian guy, you're giving off bad vibes. I had to add, are they racist, to the list of questions I had to the movie? And I put 2 and 2 together personally. There's only one other unknown in the puzzle at this point, as far as somebody they should or would know that the kids don't know. But when on their drive home, Morgan, the son, he's all in on the alien thing. He bought the alien book. He wants to read the alien book. He made a walkie-talkie out of an old baby monitor, out of Bo's old baby monitor. And so he turns the baby monitor on. And when they get back to the house, and we have some creepy noises coming over the baby monitor.
The clicking noises are going on, and this baby monitor seems to be the most effective when the whole family's touching, because they all kind of hold hands.
They're like, what is that? That's just static. That's, there's just interference. And Morgan's like, they're talking. So Morgan throughout this movie is just going to be the guy he's a kid, and he's like 8 years old, and he's going to explain everything to us. So whenever we're confused, Morgan just inherently knows what's going on.
He must have sped read through that alien book hella fast, and now he
didn't even open that alien book yet, and he knew.
He's Mr. Know-It-All already.
We also have a scene. Graham does see things moving in the corn at night. He takes off with his flashlight, tries to chase them down, tries to yell at them, scare them off, ends up getting himself scared, returns to the house, and he's starting to come to the reality that there's aliens.
Yeah, because he sees like a mysterious leg like jolt off into the corn.
It was Creep City.
Later on, he does receive a phone call. Someone calls the house and then just hangs up. Does he put together that it was Ray?
Yeah, he knows it right away, because when he goes to leave, he tells Meryl, I'll be right back. I think Ray just tried to call and hung up.
This is where we get our first conversation with Ray, who is M. Night Shyamalan. Graham goes to his house, and there are some intermittent flashback scenes, and they come up at certain moments. Graham is talking to the officer, the deputy. So Officer Paskey, in this flashback, it's a night forest road. Graham comes up and talks to her, and obviously there's bad news, and we know his wife died. So we're like, oh, okay, this is the accident, the fatal accident scene. They do cut it off at certain points, so we don't get to finish the flashback, and we do revisit it. I want to say 2 times later. I think we get
total of 3.
The initial flashback, it cuts off. I think it's like a dream sequence. He wakes up, and then the second time we get a little bit more information, and then the third time we get the full story. So Ray Reddy it turns out he is the one who inadvertently killed Colleen Hess, who is Graham's wife, because he fell asleep at the wheel. Graham goes to Reddy's house. I now know this after looking it up after the fact, but on the mailbox, it says Ray Reddy, veterinarian. And then in the beginning, you're like, oh, that's why he didn't want to call the one veterinarian in town for the dog who was acting sick and strange. He said, call the doctor. Ray he's looking shook. He's in the driver's seat of his car. He's got stuff packed in the back.
Graham goes and knocks on the door and looks through the window, and the whole area, like the whole room that he looks into, is like strewn about. Like a chair is flipped, a table's flipped, papers are everywhere. And then as he's walking away from the house, he sees Ray in his car. So we're like, what the hell happened?
Yeah, I was like, did he walk past him in the car?
That's what I was kind of wondering the same
and Ray
thing.
didn't say like, oh, I'm over here. Hey, Graham.
Hey,
we haven't spoke
Graham
in like multiple years ever since I killed your wife. People don't forget. So Ray is sitting in the driver's seat. They kind of have like their own one-on-one closure about the situation. Ray says, when you gave me that phone number that night to call you to confess my sins or whatever it was, he says, your number's just been sitting at my phone for the last however many months, years.
6 months. Yeah.
Yeah. Ray's obviously feeling terrible. And they kind of just have like this very minimal conversation. And Ray ends it with saying, oh, don't open the pantry. I got one of them locked in there. And he's also bleeding. I was a little bit confused here. What happened to him? Did he fight this alien? And was he injured? And he just said, I didn't know who to call?
That was my assumption.
The scene outside the house was a little confusing to me. I didn't quite know what was going on.
So first off, this is where I'm saying Ray, bad guy. He apologizes, and then he goes like, if I just wouldn't have fallen asleep in that 10 to 15 second window when your wife was walking there, it wouldn't have died. It was almost like it was meant to be. Like, you don't fucking say that.
Oh, yeah.
You don't say that to the husband of the woman you murdered.
I'll just jump ahead right now. In the third flashback, when he's talking to Colleen in her last moments, she does say, like in her own words, it was meant to be. So it does seem like a little bit over the top, like beaten it over your head, like destiny. This was supposed to happen. This was everybody's fate. But it is very odd. It's okay coming from Colleen because it's happening to her. Mm-hmm. It's a little odd coming from Ray.
I would have been more okay if I would have heard it from Colleen in the movie first, and then he said it. Then Graham could be like, I've heard, like, oh, that's what my wife said too. Could have that little moment in his head.
Technically, he did hear that before.
Technically, he did, but me as an audience, I'm just like,
yeah, it was a little fucked up.
Who the fuck says that? Yeah. Well, and then Ray, after he tells him that he's locked one of them in the pantry, then Graham's like, well, where are you going? And Ray hits us with,
I'm gonna hit the lake, dog. I need some R&R. I need some Ray and Reddy.
He's like, I heard they don't like water, so I'm going to the lake. Okay, so we just got we got this whole, you locked one in a pantry, you're hurt, you were meant to kill this guy's wife, and now they don't like water. We know all of this in a matter of like 3 minutes. And then you just take off.
A little expository.
And we never see Ray again.
Ray's gone. Murders wives, locks aliens something in the pantry, and leaves for the lake.
Now, instead of calling the cops like Graham has done all the way up to this point, he decides he's going to go check out this pantry for himself.
He's got to see to believe. Can you blame him?
I would just see with some backup. That's my point.
I would see with some men and women with firearms. Men, women, and Scandinavian Olympians with firearms behind me.
That's preferred, yes.
So it's a very tense scene. M. Night Shyamalan is cooking with the suspense building.
Now they do something that I do enjoy. I don't always love the way M. Night grows suspense. It's not always my cup of tea. He likes to like draw things out long. So like you're waiting for a jump scare that doesn't happen, and he strings it.
That's suspense, though. Everybody does it. That's literally the key ingredient to suspense, is drawing it out.
No, there's drawing out a scene, and then there's having a character stare at something for 10 seconds. After a certain point, I'm like,
Hashtag
I
suspense.
can't keep watching this person stare. No, staring for 10 seconds isn't suspense. Actively walking down a hallway, a character's fear growing is suspense, but like staring at the cornfield for 10 to 15 seconds, or him staring at him and his brother sharing a look for 15 seconds
Listen,
is not suspense. It's over.
one man's stare is another man's suspense. But let's keep cooking in this kitchen. He's grabbing the kitchen knife.
Something that I do appreciate M. Night does here is in the suspense building, where a lot of thriller and horror movies really lean on sound and score to grow the suspense. They cut the music in this scene. They cut all of the music.
It makes such better suspenseful scenes.
He does this a few times in the movie, because there's a whole psychology to like watching a film, like a horror film, with the music off or with the sound off makes it 100 times less scary, because the music is what gets your heart rate up and calms you down, and then the jump scares. But I appreciate that there's quite a few times in this film he just opts for silence, and I think it's a good choice, and he does that in this film. So yeah, Graham gets in the house and he grabs a kitchen knife, and he's going to look under the pantry door. And as soon as he does this, a clawed hand shoots out from under the door and swipes at Graham, and Graham drops the knife, picks it up, takes two of this alien's fingers off, just cuts them clean off. That's got to be one sharp knife. I don't know the bone structure of aliens.
It looked brand new. So Ray probably bought that the night before he killed Colleen Hess and was too shook to ever use it, because it was hella reflective and shiny and obviously very sharp.
Or he just, practices good knife maintenance.
Or these aliens / creatures just have weak infrastructure, or Graham is just built different, and I don't know what to say.
Jelly bones.
I'll take this moment, Nick. What do you think about the reveal? Because we've talked about horror movies and how much suspense they build up, and I think I mentioned how that is such a large appeal of scary movies, horror movies, thrillers. You love the build up, and then when you get the reveal, you're either most of the time going to be disappointed, or you're going to be like, oh shit, like this is really good. How'd you feel when you were kind of slowly getting introduced to what these aliens look like? Because in the cornfield, you kind of see their leg. In this scene, you see one of their hands, where you kind of like, oh, there it is. It's not scary anymore. Or were you still on your toes?
It wasn't on my toes. With aliens, especially with aliens, it's always a question mark of how is this movie going to portray how the aliens look, right? Like every movie does it a little differently. They could have 6 arms. They could have 2 heads. Everybody does it a little different.
It can range from E.T. to the xenomorph or the aliens in Arrival. They're basically like not humanoid at all. And there's the problem with alien movies is that they make them too similar to humans. They could be anything. Funny enough, this is coming at a time where Mexico released the quote unquote corpses of
the paper mache ETs.
that came out this week, I think, right?
As we're recording it.
As we're recording, that came out this week. And I thought, what are the chances, dude?
We didn't plan this. This was just
here are the aliens. Ooh. And you're like, those are rejected concept designs for E.T. Steven Spielberg.
So funny. So no, to answer your question though, no suspense, more curiosity on how it is. And again, just having seen a good chunk of M. Night Shyamalan movies, I do know he likes to keep the creature hidden for as long as possible. Did it very much in The Village, did it very much in even in Split, right? Where he doesn't really give you the full reveal of what's happening till the end. So you get a lot of bits and pieces. So I'm used to that. I'm expecting to see the teasing in an M. Night Shyamalan movie. So I'm not surprised. I'll probably get the reveal 10 to 15 minutes before the end of the movie. So I already know his formula. At the time when this came out, you may not have known the formula yet. So you could have been a little more, but
Graham comes home. I think this is the scene where he comes home after going to Ray's house, and Joaquin Phoenix and the kids are wearing tinfoil hats. And this is from the Alien book. I had a question. Where the hell did the tinfoil hats originate from? So what I can find was this is from a Vice article. It could be traced back to a very weird short story written in 1927 by Julian Huxley. He wrote a short story called The Tissue Culture King. It features a cap of metal foil, which is relatively impervious to the telepathic effect. That's the earliest trace of tinfoil hat, so that people can't read your mind. Scientists since then have come out and said, well, actually, if anything, it would help amplify that because it's metal and neurons in your brain will send off stronger signals. The tinfoil hat since then has kind of just become a pop culture symbol of paranoia.
Conspiracy theories, yeah.
Like, oh, that guy's got a tinfoil hat.
I say it all the time.
It's a great term.
Whenever I have a theory, a crazy theory, I just tell people I'm about to put the tinfoil hat on, so get ready.
So Meryl being one of those characters, there is a scene in the middle of this movie where Graham's talking to Meryl. Meryl is looking for comfort. This is where I kind of call him simple-minded, because he is like kind of like a follower, and he's looking for guidance. He's going to the military office. He
idolizes his big brother.
He's looking for a purpose, for a cause. He wants to know what's up. And then so in the beginning of the movie, he's convinced it's just a strong, athletic guy messing around the house. Halfway through the movie, he kind of latches onto the alien idea, and he's wearing tinfoil hats. He's the one that's glued to the TV screen.
He's following the kid, Morgan. I mean, that's the one who's influencing this. He's ready to follow an 8-year-old.
Yeah. So
he's acting like a dick the more he reads this book, this alien book.
He reaches out to Graham. They're watching the news and the investigations of possible UFO sightings and alien activity. And he says, what do you think? And Graham's just like, could be real, could be not. And Meryl's like, yo, can you be like how you used to be and just kind of give me some comfort right now? And then Graham goes on this tangent of dividing all people into two groups, one that sees coincidences and one that sees miracles.
People break down into two groups. When they experience something lucky, group number one sees it as more than luck, more than coincidence. They see it as a sign, evidence that there is someone up there watching out for them. Group number two sees it as just pure luck, a happy turn of chance. I'm sure the people in group number two are looking at those 14 lights in a very suspicious way. For them, this situation is a 50-50. Could be bad, could be good. But deep down, they feel that whatever happens, they're on their own. And that fills them with fear. Yeah, there are those people. See, what you have to ask yourself is, what kind of person are you? Are you the kind that sees signs, sees miracles? Or do you believe that people just get lucky? Or look at the question this way. Is it possible that there are no coincidences?
So basically it's like believers versus non-believers. Everything happens for a reason, or things just happen. So that's a very important conversation that happens halfway through the movie.
Yeah, Meryl says he's one of the people who sees miracles. And then he goes, what do you think? And Graham goes, did I comfort you? He goes, yeah. He goes, then why does it matter what I think? But then he does tell him what he thinks. He goes, there are no miracles. Like, he's very, like, he's just been shook by his wife's death. They really hammer that home.
I'm gonna throw down a flag right here. What do you think about that? Because we both came from religious families that have gone to church, Christianity, and specific. So when bad things happen to you, we've been taught that it's a test from up above. But Graham's just like, oh, fuck that. You tested me too hard. I'm out.
Yeah.
It comes down to the individual at that point, but by the game book plan, I feel like Reverend's priest would also kind of accept that as a test from up above, you know? Whereas Graham just kind of checks out. He's like, nah, fuck that. I'm out.
I don't see it as a test necessarily. What I know a lot of people in that position, like a reverend would think, is just like, hey, human grief is one of the strongest emotions that you can possibly experience. Probably losing a wife and the mother of your kids. I mean, it's destroyed a lot of people. I mean, it's the thing that happens all the time and sends people into depression and alcoholism and suicide. So
because it's really easy if someone comes at you and let's say you're the priest, you're the reverend, you're the father, and someone says like, "Oh, I feel terrible," like, you know, ever since so and so passed, what do I do? It's a lot easier said than done to be in that position. But then it's interesting to put it on the reverend.
Yeah, I mean, do I think that it's unrealistic for that to happen? Not at all. I think that's completely realistic. I think it's basically they're saying something shook him to his core and tore down his entire world. And you could see that in the way that he parents his children and interacts with his brother, interacts with everybody else, right? Like this whole, it's not just like, oh, I turned from religion and now life's better. He turned from religion because his world shattered. He has nowhere else to go. Like he's just lost. And so like they didn't make it like oh yeah, I just hate religion. It's like I got nothing. I got nothing. I got nothing. He's unemployed apparently because he's not a reverend anymore.
Is he making corn? Is that his income? I don't know.
I mean, I was going to ask that later on. I don't know what this farm does. I didn't see any like farming equipment.
This is like horse sense all over again. I'm like, what are these guys doing on the ranch that they produce money?
Yeah, like there's. Do you harvest the corn?
They just say like I'm on a ranch. That's how I live. And you're like, what's the income? And they're like, dude, I ranch. All right, stop asking questions.
It's corn. There's no animals on this ranch.
It's ranch. It's corn.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up later, but I'm glad you brought it up now.
All right. Anyway, so the alien invasion is very real.
And Graham's like, "Yep, saw one in
literally just cut off 2 fingers of one. So we gotta board up the house." There is a family dynamic debate.
Oh, this pissed me off.
Hey, should we? Well, it's not even a debate. Graham's saying we need to go to the lake because Ray Reddy, who I haven't spoke with in 6 months, however many years, told me that they don't like water, and I'm going to believe that right off the bat. And I say we go to the lake. Morgan is very insistent on standing his ground because he's a true American, apparently, and wants to stay at the house.
Well, no, he looks at his dad. He looks at his dad when he says, "I heard they don't like water," and he goes, "That sounds made up." It's like everything we're saying right now is made up. No one knows what to do for an alien invasion.
You've been reading a one resource book for the last 3 days, and you're taking all that for gospel, dude.
I think the author of that book was like Dr. Bimbu or something.
I think it was like I think it was Dr. Phil.
Might as well have been because yeah, he's like, that sounds made up, and it's like, what? Your book is correct? Like, what are you talking?
Yeah, Morgan's out of pocket, man.
And also, like, I here's my thing: as the dad, you say, here is what is happening. Everyone, you are 8. Your sister is 5. We are not taking votes here. It does show how much he's lost, like the respect of his kids and how much big of a disconnect there's been because he's been so out of it. But at a certain point, you got to say, hey, do you want to go to the lake away from here or right next to where they put this giant sign in the corn? They clearly like this corn. We need to get away from the corn. Why are we still next to the corn?
Nick, if you say corn one more time, I'm going to snap and drive to the lake, all right?
You should have. But so the vote's taken.
Huge stake driven between this family. They're staying at the house. Graham's like, all right, going back to some Christian references. He's basically saying, what does everybody want for their last meal?
Yeah, he's accepted death. He's like, if this is it, like, put me out of my misery.
And then when he's like, oh, I literally just came first encounter with this alien, we're gonna die. So whatever. Who wants dinner? Bacon, ice cream, spaghetti, chicken teriyaki. Let's go.
Yeah, Meryl says I'm gonna make sandwiches, and Bo says
Meryl says chicken teriyaki. And I was like, okay.
No. At first he says I'll make sandwiches.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
And then
my apologies, everybody.
No, I know what I'm talking about. and then Bo says I want spaghetti, and Meryl goes no, it'll be sandwiches. And then that's where Graham goes, spaghetti sounds great. Yeah, Morgan, what do you want? He wants French toast and mashed potatoes. He's like, that's what I'm talking about. Meryl, and that's when he says chicken teriyaki. And then Graham's like, I'm going to have a bacon cheeseburger. extra bacon.
They had all these ingredients for this eclectic dinner.
That's what I was thinking.
All right.
They don't seem like a family that has teriyaki sauce in the pantry.
That's what I'm
Just
saying.
throwing that out there.
Living in a town with one Indian guy, you're not thinking that.
The rest of the stuff, I can see it, I can see it, but the chicken teriyaki is where I was like, okay, guy.
Slow down, Meryl.
So they sit down for their last supper.
Super awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah, Graham is like eating, and then no one's really eating because I don't know why, but there's just a lot of tension. And Graham's like, why is no one eating? Huh? You don't like your dream dinner? Huh? And then he says, all right, well, you know what? If you're not going to eat, I'm going to eat your mashed potatoes. I'm going to eat this. Rah, 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 rah.
What happens was the kids say, we want to pray. We want to say a prayer.
Oh,
And
yeah, that's what triggers him.
That's what sets him off. He's like, I'm not going to waste another damn second on prayer. And he like starts like shoving his face full of food, and then he just breaks down into weeping. And then he just starts like crying uncontrollably. And then his son, who's like more emotionally mature than his father, gets up and like rushes, gives him a hug. And then the whole family hug. We have this like random healing moment that lasts for about 10 seconds before the aliens show up.
Two things here. One, his kids hug him, and Meryl's just sitting there like the dumb jock, like, duh. And then fucking Graham like grabs him and yanks him into the hug.
His shirt collar, yeah.
It was funny. The second thing is this is the second instant where the whole family is touching, and then the baby monitor works. So you're just like, okay, what am I trying to? What's Shamalama Ding Dong cooking up here? What sign is he trying to convey to the audience right now? We're stronger together as family.
Saying?
Shamalams, what are you doing to me right now?
Or are they saying that families summon aliens?
I got family.
So real life crop circles were a hoax, and they were theorized, conspiracy theories that it was UFO landing sites. In this movie, it's described that crop circles are
A map.
navigation symbols. Yeah. They're directions for the aliens. Like, hey, land here or come here or this way. So aliens show up. And the great thing about this scene is we don't quite know how many aliens are here, but they're at the house. So the house is boarded up.
The windows are boarded up. They put one board on the front door. And I'm like,
that's the main entry port, dude.
yeah,
Come on.
Graham makes a statement of like, they at the pantry, they had a hard time with doorknobs. It's like, so you're not going to board up the door?
They had to save the wood, man.
I also have questions. I was going to bring it up in nitpicks, but now's a good time. No guns?
Well, no guns. Okay, so I mean, they are a Christian family. One, there's two kids. The other one's a reverend.
In rural Pennsylvania.
I know, but I feel
Reverend's own guns, dude. I'm telling you.
I mean, Texas reverends, but I don't know about
Rural Pennsylvania, coal country, dude. They ain't uptown folk.
No, I'm not gonna peg them down for that.
If you own a ranch,
it's not like super common for every single person to own a gun, despite being in America.
Ranch owners, that much land, you got to protect it. You like if wolves come, stuff comes, like. Having a gun is a very common thing.
I think this comes back to the question of what do they do for money now? Because Reverend Graham, Father Graham Hess, was a reverend for his occupation, his well-being, his living. So he wasn't focused on his crops. But then that begs the question, why does this...
Well, the crops look like they're doing really well.
Well, I was going to say, why does he have crops, Because...
that many crops.
He has hella
crops.
A lot
of corn.
It's a hell of corn, dude. So it just kind of becomes like a thing of why does he have this many crops? Is this a business? And now that he has quit the father reverend life, is he all in on the corn? What's going on? I'm not gonna hold it much against him for not having a firearm.
On my way back from Ray Reddy's house, I would have stopped by the gun store. I would have been like, nope, Dude, they don't even hold knives in their hands. Like they're just like, no defense. There's no defense in this. Also, where are the cops and military? Military's the big question.
They're probably in the bigger cities because this is just some bum ass farm barn in the middle of nowhere. A one-off. We only There's 6, maybe 5 confirmed law enforcement officers in the town. They're probably dealing with bigger, better things.
There's only one crop circle in that town.
Well, maybe Lionel and that crazy lady who wants cigarettes got together and teamed up to rob the bank. Who knows?
Well, Bonnie and Clyde action.
They fell in love.
So they end up in the basement. Like they start in the house, like defending it, and then they end up in the basement. I'm like, you should have just used all the wood and boarded yourself in the basement. You were going to end up there anyway. The house has too many entry points. You should have just went to the basement.
Yeah, treat it like a tornado.
Meryl accidentally hits the light bulb. It's the only light source they had, so it goes dark, obviously, so that they're just there with flashlights. And the pounding stops on the door. They're like, they're just making noise. They're not trying to get in. It's a distraction. And this part bothered me a little bit because Graham goes, there's a coal chute down here. Like they used to shovel coal down here. There's a coal chute. And so they're like looking for the coal chute. And I'm like, you don't know that like, where it is in your basement? I've had basements. I know where shit is in my basement. I know if there's a coal chute in my basement, I know where that is in the basement. The house isn't that big. That basement's maybe 400 square feet.
What the hell, Graham?
So they find the coal chute. And where's Morgan at, James, during this whole kerfuffle?
Morgan wanders all the way to the fucking coal chute and stands directly in front of it with his back to it.
Leaning against it.
Whoa, what are you guys looking at me for? And then, boom, alien hand grabs him. And there's a flashlight, strobe light, scuffle. And I think we just kind of cut ahead to Morgan breathing heavy. He has asthma. It's been set up in this movie.
Did they bring his medicine down there, James?
No, that was the whole point.
Yeah, they never do.
So
never bring their medicine with them.
Everyone's got their quirks. So Bo has a thing with water. Morgan has asthma. He has an inhaler. They set this up. So I will give them, I want to give this movie credit because they do a lot of setup and letting you know multiple times, like, hey, this is a important part of this movie. You should take note of this. So Morgan has asthma. He has an inhaler. Bo has water glasses strewn about the entire house. Meryl has this backstory of being peaked in high school baseball player, but failed at the minor league semi-pro level. And Graham's issue is that he's struggling with his faith. So this is all going to culminate in the final scenes here. And they can't go up and get the inhaler because the aliens are out there.
Graham actually calms down Morgan. It's like this big father-son after there's been this disconnect and Morgan said, I hate you. You know, he doesn't love his dad. Then they had this healing moment at the table. They had another moment after that where they, you know, Graham describes how, you know, the days they were born. And after that dinner scene, Mel Gibson's tone as an actor got so much more alive and there were ups and downs. Like he got his emotion back after that emotional dinner table hug.
Graham's character, yeah, he was very like one monotone kind of guy. He always just kind of seemed like he was lost in whatever moment he was in. Yeah. Like just disconnected from reality the entire time up until that moment.
Yeah. And as he's calming down his son, telling God, like, don't you take him from me.
He says, I hate you. So Morgan says it to his own father. Graham's been referred to as father because he was a reverend by the townsfolk. And he repeatedly says, don't call me father. I'm not a reverend anymore. Don't do that. And then so Graham says to quote unquote, the father, I hate you. So it's a little bit of parallels going on there. And this is where they're really kind of saying, like, if you don't get it now, this man's faith is shooketh.
And you actually get a close-up of Meryl mouthing a prayer during all this. It's like Meryl's the one who's...
So Meryl's the believer. He's part of group one that sees miracles. He thinks things happen for a reason. He sees signs. Graham has regressed into that group two that he self-described as people who just see good luck coincidences as things that happen. And everything that's on the table is 50-50. There's not a higher power. There's no one working behind the scenes. You're kind of on your own. So Meryl wakes up Graham and says the aliens have reportedly left Earth. Something scared them off. And then they go upstairs. We get this kind of false sense of security. They say, hey,
we need to get the medicine for Morgan.
I'll go get the TV. Well, because they put the TV in the closet in this like little Harry Potter apartment under the stairs closet because they wanted to get the media propaganda away from the kids. But then Joaquin Phoenix's character was in there every single minute watching the news. So they pull the TV out, and we probably get one of the greatest thriller horror movie reveals in cinematic history, in my opinion, when they roll the TV out.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cinematic history, this is the best reveal?
I said one of the best reveals.
Okay.
Do you have better?
Off the top of my head right now, no. I'll come back to you with the list, but
yeah,
I don't.
Okay. That's
I don't
what
think
I thought,
this is one
dude.
of the best. This is not one of the best. I could already tell where the scoring's going. You really like this one, so this is going to get fun. But all right, in James's opinion, it's one of the best cinematic reveals.
Yeah, they roll the TV out, and then in the reflection of the turned off TV, the bubble screen, you see this silhouette of the alien, and then everyone kind of drops everything that they're doing, and they're like, oh shit, there's an alien in the living room and he's holding Morgan hostage.
Mm-hmm.
Graham's rolling in the TV, and he's the one who sees this. Bo's just sitting there, shook, scared, silent little kid. And then Merrill comes in from the kitchen, and then he freezes. And then we get this kind of super tense standoff with the alien who is cradling a motionless Morgan in the living room. And then this is where we get another kind of POV shot of Graham kind of staring at the camera or staring over it or around it. And this is where we jump into that third flashback scene of what happened with his wife. We get the full scope of that backstory of why Graham is the way he is. Colleen is pinned against a tree from Ray Reddy's truck. Earlier in the movie, Graham says,
I never told you the last words that Colleen said before they let her die. She said, see. Then her eyes glazed a bit. And then she said, swing away. You know why she said that? Because the nerve endings in her brain were firing as she died. And some random memory of us at one of your baseball games just popped into her head. There is no one watching out for us, Meryl.
This is during that believers versus non-believers scene. Like, it was nonsense.
Yeah, it was her neurons were just frayed.
Yeah, so
She
it's all
couldn't think.
culminating to this final build-up, this battle, the conflict in the living room. Graham is piecing together his wife's final words of what to do in this situation.
It was meant to be. Tell Morgan to play games. Tell Bo to listen to her brother. And tell Graham. Tell him to see. And tell Meryl to swing away.
And then so Graham sees this as a sign of what all of this has culminated to, all of this it was meant to be moments that he's been noticing throughout the entirety of this movie. He says, Meryl, swing away.
Swing away, Meryl. Meryl, swing away.
And there's a baseball bat up on the wall, so Meryl grabs it.
This was referenced earlier in the recruiting office. He's like, yeah, I still have the bat up on my wall.
Yeah, exactly. So he grabs it and just goes ham on this alien. Just swings at it. The alien turns its back and looks like he's trying to poison Morgan. They do mention that earlier on, that they release a toxic gas and that you shouldn't engage and that they're actually hostile. So Meryl takes a swing at this alien, and he ends up dropping Morgan after he sprays Morgan in the face with this toxic gas. Later on in the scene, we see one of Bo's glasses of water spill on the alien, and it's almost making like his skin deteriorate. Like it kind, like their blood is also red, so we kind of get a quick little sign that, you know, it's injured. We learn, oh, what Ray Reddy said was correct. They do not like water.
Yeah, the whole time it was like,
And apparently it is super harmful to them. This is enough to distract the alien for Graham to bring his kids out of the living room. And meanwhile, Meryl is just going to town on this guy with a bat. And they all figure out that it's water that harms them. So he starts smashing glasses of water and splashing the alien with water. And then ultimately it ends with another POV shot of the alien getting smacked with the bat, and the camera falls down on the ground. There's a glass that's above on the counter. It tips over and pours onto the camera, basically melting this guy, that he's dead.
Very dead.
Super dead.
Morgan, who got the poison from the alien, actually didn't breathe it in because his lungs were closed up from the asthma attacks. They hit him with the EpiPen. He does come back after a lot of hemming and hawing. We kind of flash forward a few months, and the house is back to normal. No boards. Definitely there's a lot more light coming in through the windows. Like, it's a very optimistic feeling in the house.
It's snowing outside, so you're like, okay, we're in like a new season. Several months have passed.
And Graham comes through the door wearing his reverend outfit.
Don't call it a comeback, bitch.
His faith has been restored. All things work out in the end.
There we go. That's Signs, baby.
Woo.
Now, Nick, do you have any nitpicks?
Nitpicks. I thought there should have been a little more defensive weaponry. Knives, a gun, I know you kind of are looking past that. I still think...
I don't think it's a requirement for every single family to have a gun. That's all I'm saying.
I'm saying that a ranch in rural Pennsylvania might have a weapon. B, I may have procured a weapon after my first run-in with one of these creatures.
Okay, my nitpicks are the tropes of the creepy kids.
They're super creepy kids.
Yeah. Why does there always have to be creepy kids? And why does it always have to seem like they're so nonchalant with the creepy things they say? Stop being creepy.
So this is something that I feel like M. Night Shyamalan does this a lot. He kind of adds these like spooky things to movies that then are never addressed. So speaking of the Bo's constantly talk about having dreams of things that are happening. She's like, this is what happened in my dream. I have one of those bad feelings again. I'm like, can she see the future? It's never addressed. And so we have that. In the book, there's like one of the pictures of the aliens and their ship is destroying a house that looks exactly like their house with a dead man and two kids outside. And I'm like, is this prophetic? Like, is this supposed to be, or is it just something you throw in because you're like, oh, spooky?
Yeah, because in the moment you're thinking, oh, okay, this means something. But at the end of it, you're thinking, okay, maybe that was just a red herring. And maybe that was a false sign that Graham was looking at. That was like the doubt side of the signs he shouldn't be looking for.
It's not like, oh, that looks like our house. It's like, that's a drawing of our house.
My second nitpick is that Morgan is a dick for no reason. So we learn...
Swears at his dad.
Yeah, so in the beginning, he kind of swipes off his dad's comforting hand on his shoulder. And I was like, what the hell, Morgan? And then later on, he basically has resentment for his mom's death and blames his dad. I'm like, why, dude?
Yeah.
It's a little dick.
He tells him, it's like, it's your fault she's dead.
It's like, no, it's not. It's Ray Reddy's fault. He literally hella hit her with his vehicle.
Like I understand there's angst in the family. You don't have to like bring it over the top.
My third nitpick is, why does that suspicious ass book lady know exactly where the one alien book is in the store? She's like, it's the 17th book on the right, on the far left shelf, third down in the very southwest corner of my bookstore. It's like, what the hell? I was like, the sergeant is an alien and this bitch is an alien. Trying to mislead
It's
Morgan.
Like very convenient. Also just convenient. It's like, oh, we randomly got an alien.
Oh yeah. And they say like, oh, it came on the wrong shipment. It was supposed to go to one of them big cities, not this dumbass hick town.
Yeah. We don't read alien books. It's not even like an alien book. It's like this conspiracy.
It's that whack
job book.
Yeah. Some whack job guy wrote this and went to the Hess farm and drew it.
Apparently.
That's all the nitpicks I have.
Works for me.
All right, talking points. I do want to shout out the score. It's amazing.
It's a great score. Very good score.
I was talking about the cinematography. I just want to kind of wrap up my thoughts of the POV shots. I don't think I have a strong case to say that whenever there's a breaking the fourth wall shot, that it's the point of view of the alien. That's why I kind of thought there was a conspiracy. Well, maybe. But I was thinking, certain townsfolk were aliens in disguise, like the creepy sergeant guy, the chick at the pharmacy, because that was the other kind of staring at the camera shots. And then so that shot of them on the roof when he's tracking Meryl, we learn that they can kind of camouflage to their background. So that, I think that was a pretty clear cut example of the aliens are watching these people and observing in plain sight, and they just camouflage themselves. But then they don't reveal that they can take on human form, so that theory is a little bit debunked.
For the most part, it was there in the POV for the aliens.
Speaking of theories, I think we both kind of researched a fan theory, which was the demon theory. You got anything to share on that?
Yeah, so I thought that was really interesting. I do think M. Night Shyamalan tackles stories in a way that can lead to like 50 different theories. And fans, he has such a huge following. It's like when you read a book and 50 people could come away with a different interpretation of the book. The demons theory here is that they actually aren't aliens. They're demons. Their physical appearance kind of gives some credence to that because they don't look like your typical aliens. They look very demonic, look like a monster in a horror movie, more so than what you'd think of an alien to look like. And the idea is that they actually just feed on your worst fears, right? And to defeat them, you have to overcome your fears. So to defeat them, Graham had to face his death of his wife and then save his kids. Bo had to overcome the fear of losing her brother. She mentions multiple times, like, are you going to die? And he's like, who told you you're going to die? And she's like, I had a dream. Meryl's kind of fear and his thing is like, he doesn't have direction. He was a baseball player. What is he now? And then he beats his fear by beating up an alien with a bat. So everybody defeats their fears. There's more so like, are they actually, is water what gets them? Or is it because it's the water that the Reverend poured? It's holy water. And these are demons because it's all the water that Bo left around the house.
So that's where you can kind of debunk that one, because if they don't like water in general, all water can't be holy water, you know? Because Ray's like, I'm going to the lake. It's like, does a Reverend live on an island in the middle of the lake?
Well, the other side of that is that like there's water everywhere, in the air, in the ground. Like if they're that sensitive to water, where like a drop touches their skin, like that corn at night has to have dew on it. Like you'd be like burning up. So I'm not going to get into like, I don't think it's a nitpick for like the physics of water. Like that's whatever.
Or the shape of water.
It's an alien movie. Get out of here.
I can't wait. I can't wait till the Oscar wheel lands on that and we watch that.
Oh, I'm so mad. I hope it's 50 years from now when I'm really crotchety.
Captivating theory, but I think ultimately
it's not what he's going for.
Not plausible, I don't think.
That's one of those theories to me where it's like, bro, it ain't that deep.
You're not that guy.
You're not that guy.
No, it just ain't that deep. So I have a question for you. Honestly, did the aliens being aliens even add anything to this movie? Because the main story here is not aliens.
Mm-hmm.
It's a dad dealing with grief, trying to keep his family together. So, like, did they need to be aliens? Could it have been zombies? Could it have been demons? Could it have been people, actual real people fucking with his farm and then breaking into his house and coming after him? Could it have been invasion from another country? Like, did them being actual aliens, do you think, add much to this movie? Or do you think it was like, it's just kind of an extra plot device to move the family dynamic thing along?
That's the image. That's the promotional posters, trailers. That's what draws you in. But ultimately, it's the story and the message, or just the thought-provoking themes that will leave an impression on you that make you think, wow, that was a good movie, or that was okay, or that was bad. So the plot devices are what they are. Aliens are what they are. Zombies are what they are. They're not the reason why a movie is good or bad. They're just part of the plot, the infrastructure of the movie. That's why The Walking Dead is so great. It's not about the zombies, it's about the characters. So I think it's a little bit of a media prodding question of, did the aliens add anything? It's like, no, but they weren't supposed to. The story is what it is.
I'm just saying, because it for me, it's a theme with M. Night Shyamalan movies where it's, you know, there's always this crazy twist of a random device. And it's like, what was was the device? Or are you just kind of cycling through devices trying to tell a story? And then why don't we just tell the story without it? Could that story be told without the device? And it could.
Movies are simple stories. that you walk away from and hopefully learn to listen. Sometimes they're just a plot-filled action joyride, and we're here for all of it. M. Night Shyamalan always has a twist in his movies. I believe the twist was in this movie that the aliens were allergic to water. I didn't necessarily see that as a twist. I just kind of saw that as a property of the aliens. What did you think?
Ooh. So the question is, what is the twist?
Because M. Night Shyamalan, the signature move in his movies is there's a huge, crazy twist. If this was a twist, I don't think it was that crazy. And I'm not mad that there wasn't a huge twist. Because like we were talking about with the movie Old, it's like, if I know a big twist is coming because you're M. Night Shyamalan, then I'm going to be thinking about that the entire time. So in this movie, I didn't see it as a twist. What did you think?
I'm trying to think what the twist is.
No, I think that's the twist, that they're allergic to water.
Yeah, but I wouldn't even call that a twist. If that's meant to be the twist, I personally wouldn't classify it as a twist.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's not a twist.
I might, man, I'm trying to think what I would classify as the twist. The twist might be that they are actually aliens, and the twist came halfway through the movie.
No, there's probably a post-credit scene that got cut, and the sergeant was an alien. The pharmacy chick was an alien.
Could be that, or the twist. Honestly, the twist comes with, if it had to be anything, it would be at the end when his wife's death was meaningful, and she kind of prophesized what. He's like, oh, I'm not going to deal with my wife's death. And then once I deal with it, now I have the answers. That'd probably be the twist, quote unquote, is his return back to the faith there.
I got to do my research, but I think that's a way better explanation and reason of what, or justification of what the twist is in Signs. Because if it's the water, that's just like, oh, okay. I will say that they do make an homage. They do drop a hint to War of the Worlds, H.G. Wells novel.
Yeah, a couple times.
So Meryl says it's like War of the Worlds. The way War of the Worlds ends is the Martian alien invasion. They die off due to earthbound bacteria.
Yeah, they can't
to a sickness.
It. Yeah,
it's a very simple thing that they die off from. So they do kind of drop a hint of what will ultimately kill the aliens at the end of this movie. Something as simple as water.
My last question was kind of like, what the fuck was Ray's character?
Plot device,
but like very like, hey man, they don't like water. It's like your wife's death happened for a reason.
Plot device.
Randomly, I'm a vet, but I was able to lock one in the pantry.
PLOT space DEVICE.
Then just deuces. I found it as like a M. Night. You could get a better plot device than that one.
No, that is the plot device. Plot devices are bad. Plot devices they're just there to move the plot forward, but they don't provide any storytelling aspect. They're just like, here's an explanation of why this is happening.
So let's go back to the question we came up with at the beginning of this.
We had this audible talking point. Yeah, the budget talk. Talk to me, man.
72 million for as little as you see the creatures and how you never see a ship. It's all like on the TV. So I feel like you don't need that much CGI for like a grainy TV footage. 72 feels like a lot. There's really two locations this movie shot. That's in the town and at the house. And then I guess you have the flashback scene in the woods. Ray Reddy's house. So 4 or 5. And then the actors list.
The Splinter Unit ones of the footage from Brazil of the birthday party. The found footage home video of the alien interrupting the birthday party.
But I mean, still, we're in single digits, right? On locations, and most of those are probably in the same
at best 5
area. And so we have that. I mean, Mel Gibson, Joaquin Phoenix. You could definitely spend money on the actors there.
I don't know about Joaquin Phoenix back in the day, but Mel Gibson
he's coming off of Gladiator, so he's not cheap yet. He is known,
but Mel Gibson has been around the block.
So as far as like 72 million, feels like a lot,
right? I mean, the CGI was like fine for what it was, but there still wasn't a whole lot of it, you know?
This is 2002, and let's compare it to 2003's Hulk on the CGI scale. These guys definitely took their time and did it right.
If you want to do budget talk, Hulk had $137 million budget.
But that was pure CGI. I feel like a lot of the stuff, like the hand that Graham ended up cutting off, that was probably more practical than CGI. I'm trying to think of where the true CGI comes in. It's probably the final scene.
It's the
when we
final
get
scene
the
for
full true
sure.
CGI.
And like the low glimpses, like the home video footage of the alien walking by, the leg in the cornfield.
Yeah, but you could put somebody in a practical costume that looks that
You
way.
could have, but it was CGI.
You're like Morgan with his book. Everything you read is facts. Okay. All right. You're just very sure about things.
That's where you're wrong. I don't read. I watch movies.
Bitch.
Bitch.
But yes, even with all of that, I mean, the CGI is good. Like,
I think it's fine.
I don't look at
It's
this and I don't see like
groundbreaking, but we don't watch movies for CGI. We watch them for the story.
What do you say we move this along here?
Yeah, you want to give me a sarcastic selling point, and then I'll just follow up with mine?
Sure. So I said, so imagine a horror story where there are demons haunting a family, and then replace the demons with aliens.
I said this is War of the Worlds meets A Quiet Place with a corn farm perspective.
Very corn-centric.
This is we will be assigning popcorn points coming up.
Final review. Fight.
Let's see what the other guys are saying. Nick, hit me with that tomato meter.
So the critics over here at Rotten Tomatoes come in at 75%.
And the fans are coming in at 67.
Critics give it 59 out of 100. We translate that to 5.9.
While the Metacritic users are looking in the mirror, because this is opposite of the Rotten Tomatoes formula. They're a little bit higher. This is 7.8 with the fans. And IMDb, at the same time, Nick, I'm just going to use my telepathic tinfoil hat that we're going to say it at the same time. 6.8.
6.8.
Oh, yeah, we totally did it at the same time.
It's totally, yeah, edit that in post. So we're sitting anywhere from 60 to 75. That's kind of where we're floating here.
The highest one is 7.8. The lowest one is 5.9. Both from Metacritic, actually.
Yeah, they had a lot of swing in that.
Swing away. All right, Nick, swing away and give me your laughable log line, your popcorn points, and your final thoughts on 2002's Signs.
Yeah, so my log line here is a priest's wife dies and he immediately turns into a terrible father. Then aliens show up and help him fix everything. 5.2. I got a 5.2 on this one. It's good. It's fine. It's a good movie for me. I think there were a lot of things that went unresolved in a certain way. The fixing of the fracture between Graham and his kids was really abrupt. It was like, oh, we're scared, like aliens are coming, quick fix, and let's move on. I didn't quite fully get his whole like restoration of his faith. Just is it because his son ended up taking the medicine and it worked, and his wife died for a reason? Like, was this all prophetic? He's like, oh, she did die for a reason. It wasn't chance. She told me to tell Meryl to swing away. That's what it was. That's why she died. So I could tell Meryl to hit an alien with a bat. Wasn't quite sure on that one. Elsewhere, the ending didn't really, that alien reveal didn't get me. I was like, there's no way we go through this movie without seeing an alien. We've put too much time and effort into building up this alien. It will be here. So when they went up the stairs, I was like, it's there. I know it's there. Otherwise, I mean, the score was great. Acting was great. Love Joaquin Phoenix as an actor. Mel Gibson did fine. His whole like monotone thing fixed with the family, and now I'm animated. I get what they're going for. I thought it was a little too dramatic of a shift between those two, like just way too noticeable, and which kind of threw me off. Again, you don't agree with me. You know, in my opinion, I think M. Night Shyamalan does a great job. He knows how to build suspense. I think there were a lot of times in this movie for me where scenes that were not meant to be suspenseful just drew on and on and on. A lot of just like dead space, looks at each other, where I was like trying to keep focus. I'm like, hey, is this an important scene? Is this not an important scene? Do I need to pay attention to that? Bo's having dreams. There were just some things that took a little too long for me. All in all, good film. If you haven't seen it, you should see it. It's definitely an M. Night Shyamalan movie and worth the watch. I understand where it's great. It's not a movie for me.
You've heard it from the chief corn dog himself, Nick Justice. My laughable log line is: an unemployed reverend investigates mysterious signs in his life, the biggest sign being in his corn, and questions if they mean anything. This is a 8.2 for me. I love this movie. And let me tell you why. Let's just run through the checklist here real quick. Structure is good. 3-act story structure. Believability. Now, this is in the realm of the world that they have built. Obviously, aliens are a hot topic. Like, some people will say, yep, they're real. Some people will deny them to their grave. Kind of arbitrary there. I'm not really going to put a score there. Tropes, I'll give it like a 6, out of 10. You got the creepy kids. You got the convenience. Those are always like a problem. But all in all, kind of comes with the territory of a horror movie. Same goes for plot holes, give and take there. The world building I thought was great. The dialogue I thought was pretty well written. Morgan does kind of lend himself to the explaining of why things are, and he's just correct all the time.
Except the water.
But they don't. But yeah, well, yeah. Actually, you know what? Maybe he's not correct because the tinfoil hats never come to play. Maybe if they were wearing the tinfoil hats in the basement, the aliens wouldn't know that there was a coal chute. So where was the scripture then? Why didn't they listen to their alien Bible then? Dumbasses.
Where was Bo's feelings?
The acting, Mel Gibson, I'm gonna rate high. There's not really an antagonist in this movie. It's really just like questioning your faith. Kid actors, I thought, did okay. They're kid actors. Joaquin Phoenix was great. The vibe, 9. Fucking love this movie. I love this shit. I love suspenseful, thrilling build up. Like you were saying, horror movies, bread and butter is the buildup, is the suspense, is keeping the monster in the dark. And that's the best part of horror movies. It's almost like the best part of most things. Like when Christmas is coming up, the lead up to Christmas is almost better than Christmas morning itself. You're just like, the idea of Christmas is better than actually being there. That's how I feel.
The anticipation.
Maybe that's a flaw in myself, but I find that the suspense and the buildup is always more enjoyable. The journey versus the destination. So I would say I would give the first 2 acts of this movie a 9. And then with scary movies, it's really that landing. It's really that reveal. I will agree with you. The reveal of the aliens at the end, I think it's just hard to pull off. Honestly,
very.
I think it's just like once you see the monster that you've been building up this whole time, we're all having our own visions of what this thing may possibly look like. Maybe it's your deepest fear. And then when we all come together as an audience and see this one director's vision of the alien, the monster, the big bad, you're thinking, oh, okay, that's it. Very hard to pull off the landing. I think they stuck the landing fine. It wasn't like the alien wasn't the scary part, which kind of echoes your question of, did they add anything? No, it's just a plot device and something to draw the audience in. It's really the story that will leave an impression on you. I just really enjoy the idea of looking for signs in your life and just like the question of, oh, does this person see things that happen in his or her life for a reason? Or are you a type of person that will just accept whatever comes your way and you have no belief system? So for Graham, this whole movie was leading up to this one moment of defeating one of the biggest threats that the Earth has ever seen, which is an alien invasion. And all these little signs and moments in his life and the key flashbacks that are popping up at certain points in the movie, they're telling him one message, and that is, Meryl, swing away. I'm getting mad at Bo for leaving her water all over the house, but it was a sign this whole time that this was meant to be. Colleen saying it was almost like it was meant to be. Ray saying it was like it was meant to be. I don't think it's necessarily like you walk away from this movie saying I should look for signs and make justification for everything I see. I think it's just the phenomenon of, are you that person that does that? And then in this case for Graham, he is a man of faith and he lost it. And then he saw all these signs that led up to this one point that was very meaningful, that saved his life, saved his child's life. The sign that Morgan's lungs closed at the end, he didn't inhale the poisonous gas. He saw that as a sign from up above. So in Graham's experience, it's very literal of faith. It's very like religion based, but it kind of goes into a general faith phenomenon for any audience. It doesn't have to be religion. It just has to be like, oh, this meant to be. So I don't think you're supposed to walk away from this movie thinking, I need to look for signs and make meaning out of every little thing. It's really just like the idea of, do you think that way or do you not think that way? So for Graham, he thought that way. Maybe in some people's mind, it's a happy ending. And maybe in other people's minds, it's like, all right, that's just where this trail, this road of plot points led Graham. For me, honestly, I love this movie. I think it's super entertaining. And it's really just like the thematics of that idea that I enjoy. Because it's not necessarily saying this is what it is and here's the message. Because at the end of the day, just like Graham discussed with there's two types of people, I think there's two types of people that watch this movie. They say like, oh, I can find the thematics in that. Or there's people that just say like, well, that didn't make any sense and I don't like it. I think that's kind of where we landed.
No, I the Graham's faith thing, I think that's a great point. And then I had one more thought. Sorry, just bring this up now. Just a quick question for you. Did the alien at the end that they killed, it was the one that he chopped the fingers off of in Ray's cabin?
Yeah, we didn't mention that. Yeah.
Was that alien looking for him?
I think so.
Was he hunting him down?
He was out for Graham. He was like, fuck this guy. Just cut off my fingers.
He starts making noises at him. He sounds like a clicker from
Last of Us.
And then he's like looking at him like I'm going to kill your son now. You cut my fingers off. I was like, this is a vindictive alien.
Very vengeful.
Yeah. Sorry. I didn't bring that up before.
Yeah, no, we didn't bring that up at all.
I had to mention this.
But this was the one that he cut the fingers off of.
Oh, he's back. It's like, did he come specifically for him?
Signs with a vengeance.
The alien's not dead.
I personally really like this movie, and I appreciate your takeaway from this movie as well. Unfortunately, for me, this makes the Just Play It score an average of a 6.7, the same as The Burbs. You kidding me?
There's nuance there, man.
Yeah, kidding me? Put some respect on Signs' names. This kind of goes to the whole follow-up universal outlook on this movie. Some people say it's very overrated. Some people say it's very underrated. So I think what we proved here at Just Play It is that that's hella true. Some of us will walk away loving this movie. Some of us will walk away thinking, meh, I've seen better.
Some of us will see the signs.
Some of us will look for the signs, we'll look for meaning, and we'll try and find the good in the movies, the bad in the movies, and the ugly. So for Signs, on average, this is unseasoned but fresh popcorn. In Nick's mind, this is pre-pop store-bought. In my mind, this is a shared bag of movie popcorn. This is spooky times, baby. And coming up next week, we're watching, I think, a movie that must be a slaughter involving vehicles.
It's a Stephen King special.
Please follow us on Instagram and YouTube at Just Play It Podcast. Please follow us on Twitter at Just Play It Pod. We're heading gone. In the meantime, you should watch out and check your corn stalks and look for the signs, because you never know what is lurking out there.
See the signs. They don't seem like a family that has teriyaki sauce in the pantry.
Because this is just some bum-ass farm barn in the middle of nowhere.